Welcome to the Spaghetti Wall podcast, where we dive into life.
Both the messy parts and the moments of joy, and everything in between. I'm Jason Wilcox, licensed clinical social worker.
And I'm Dr. Thaen Saelee, a licensed clinical psychologist.
So we're going to do something a little different today. We're going to mix it up by looking at what are the top 5 things that people ask ChatGPT about relationships.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a new, exciting, I think, hopefully more engaging way for us to bring up some relationship topics.
Yeah. So we haven't looked at them yet. We have already typed into ChatGPT what the 5 questions are, and we've asked it what the 5 answers are, but we have not actually read these yet. We wanted to read them with you as the audience and have our initial thoughts as we read them. So the first one here, is this relationship normal or is something wrong? So someone was to ask us that question. How would we answer? How would you answer, Tan?
People have asked me that question. It's like, is the fact that this issue with sex normal or not normal? Are we doing this wrong or right? And the way I answer is just first by being curious and then talking about the person's concern, what this means to the person, and really analyzing that and being curious and kind of expanding it a little more before I jump to any conclusion. It's usually me asking a bunch of questions for them to come up with where they want to land.
Yeah. I think the approach I take when I get asked this question is I try to identify first there isn't a right or wrong. Right? Wrong is a judgment that we're placing on a relationship. And of course, the only one that can identify what they're experiencing in the relationship is them, and identifying what they do or don't like. So normally what I do is I just take approach of looking at what's healthy and not healthy. And if it's falling into one of those ideas of something that's a little bit more kind of toxic, unhealthy, we talk about that, what that looks like, what's happening, what's going on, what do they want to do about that. But if it's not falling into that category, it's more about what do they want in a relationship versus trying to judge whether it's right or wrong. Is this a relationship they enjoy? Is it not? Is this something they want to continue? Is it not? Instead of getting into those judgments that just make it so much more confusing of just identifying what you want in this relationship.
Yeah, I think pausing to look at values and what they care about. Sometimes the issue is coming outside of the partnership, and it's like, oh, well, what happens when you take away this external, component? And sometimes that's useful as well.
Sure. Question number 2. How do I communicate without it turning into a fight? Ooh, good question. Want to take this one first? Do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
You want me to go first? How do I communicate without it turning into a fight? I think it's twofold. First off, you can never guarantee that you can communicate in a way that doesn't cause a fight. Anything can cause a fight. But there's things that we know will give you a better chance of not having a fight or not having an argument. So first off, you need to understand that there's 4 styles of communication. There's assertive, passive, passive-aggressive, and aggressive. What we try to get people to do is move to that assertive communication. If you know that you're in the assertive column, where I'm going to use this word carefully, but if you're respecting yourself and respecting the other person, right? You're honoring them, their values, their needs, and you're honoring your own and not trying to override someone or allow someone to override you, you're in assertive communication. So the goal is try to move to assertive communication. And if the person has a negative response to that and a fight ensues after having assertive communication, this is the second part here. It's not your fault. You didn't necessarily do anything wrong. So if you try to analyze self when you're being assertive, going, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? I caused a fight. Well, you didn't. This is an internal mechanism in the other person. They're getting triggered. Something's happening inside of them that takes and filters that information that you just gave or you just spoke to, and now it's making an intense emotion inside of them. And if that's happening, it's very difficult to navigate if that filter, that negative core belief continues. And like we've mentioned in other podcasts, we do have an episode on negative core beliefs if you want to understand those better. but it's something the mind does that filters information. So those are the two parts to try to simplify the answer I would give to this question.
Yeah, I can speak to the training that I've used, which is the emotional focus therapy for couples, where usually I ask more about tracking what happens in the fight, what gets said, what are you thinking about, what are you assuming, and then what emotional needs is not being met here. And so usually I try to track it with this like EFT fight cycle and then go into making um some asks around where it is in this fight cycle that you feel you can interrupt this if it's feeling like a fight. The other one I like that you mentioned the four styles. The fifth one I use commonly from Dr. Marsha Rosenberg is nonviolent communication. So really looking at is the way we are speaking putting this person into a mode where they cannot hear us. When they're activated, they will not hear us. And so when we speak from a very nonviolent stance, the person is able to lean into us more and listen and open their ears instead of going, well, I'm being attacked. I need to retreat and I need to hide behind this wall that I built so strongly to survive these interpersonal moments. And so usually I teach these skills and we look at how they can be applied to these situations that the person's bringing into therapy about.
Yeah, normally when I think nonviolent communication and I help people understand is I move back to that assertive, because assertive is nonviolent, right? That would always fall under that category. If it has any violence to it, you've now moved out of assertive. And I did forget a third component when you're talking. You made me think about that. These are things I talk about in the first couple sessions when I work with couples, is empathy. Finding the state of empathy when communicating can always decrease the likelihood of fights and arguments. Empathy is a very powerful, powerful thing to use.
Yeah. I think there's also a reframing around fights, and some people are very deathly afraid of conversations turning into fights because you walk away feeling very disconnected and not good. And there's definitely ways that couples, um, you know, maybe not resolve the issue that the fight or the discussion started, but to always remember to come back and say, I love you. Let's talk more about this here. Let's plan for another discussion. Like it's okay to have these difficult conversation, and I think it's important for us to reframe it in that way. But the part that the fighting feels like is the walking away and not feeling good about where you stand in the relationship or how you're being perceived by your partner or vice versa.
So number 3 here says, am I asking for too much or am I asking for not enough?
Mm, okay. Well, I think I'll take a stab at this one. I think lots of people who fall into this, what we call like shame identity spiral, could identify with these questions. Am I too much? Am I too needy? Is my ask too much? Is this why this person cannot meet me halfway or cannot meet my needs? And usually I like to pause and go, well, what does this statement, if you believe it, makes you feel? Right? If I truly believe that I am too much for my partner, how does that make me feel? Right? And usually, when that is an unconscious process or an intrusive thought that comes up, um, it does not allow us to be present and engage and to have these difficult conversations. Oftentimes, it becomes very internal. So the individual starts to doubt themselves. The individual starts to actually skew reality sometimes. Like, oh, the partner didn't say X, Y, and Z, but this person is interpreted in that way. So usually I do some CBT work. I do some ACT work around thinking distortions, reality testing, um, helping the person own that negative belief and seeing how it impacts them and does not prepare them or set them up for a successful, difficult conversation around needs not being met, or requests or things that they like to see happen more or not. And the second thing is enough or not enough. I usually say the skill that we're working on is around your self-improvement and growth, and not the outcome of whether or not this person starts showing up, because that we can't control that. We can't control if you say, hey, I need you to do this. They may not be able to do that or still won't do that. But the fact that you were able to change something about that interaction or dynamic, that is the piece of progress that we're looking at. And so I usually go into these kind of when there's another party involved around communication, around interpersonal skills, is that the outcome is changing this person's behavior. Because you may learn all the skills and you may show up and you may have the perfect script, or you may have said everything you needed to say differently, or you felt regulated, and this person still couldn't meet you halfway, couldn't show up. And that's a real piece of kind of what we deal with when it comes to interpersonal skills and outcome.
Right. Yeah, there's a number of things you said in there. I also do the same. I feel like the crux of this question, the root of it, goes back to what I said at the other one, is it starts from a place of judgment. And again, anytime I got clients questioning me, asking questions that start in the place of judgment, I always navigate to, first and foremost, you're judging it. And that's not going to help. Anytime you're asking questions that are based out of judgment, it's not going to get you very far. If you can start from a place of, literally, I mean, right now, if you can see yourself and just see you're not too much and you're enough, start there and then navigate outwards. Could there be things you're doing that overwhelm your partner? Sure. But does that equate that now you're too much? Well, now we got a problem. So when you're looking at this, you're just trying to look at the relationship itself, of how it's functioning. You know, you can talk to your partner, communication, like Thaen said, that's huge, of finding out what feels good for them, what feels good for you. But if you come into it thinking either I'm not enough or I'm too much, you're going to hold back, or you're going to judge it heavily, and it's going to cause more conflict within the relationship. So first and foremost, so we just want to work on what's causing you to ask the question in the first place, and what's happening internally inside of you, and recognize that the question itself isn't going to get you too far, and shift the question from am I too much or am I not enough to what's working and what's not working in the relationship. Where are my needs? Where are their needs? What's being met? What's not? How do we negotiate? How do we
Number 4, why does my partner react so strongly to small things? Jason, how do you address this when it comes up?
Well, not to be too terribly redundant, but reacting to small things, that's all about perspective. So what you feel is small, if they're having a reaction, it's apparent they don't feel it small, right? For example, like mice, rodents, they don't bother me. I'm totally okay with them. If I see them, I think they're just cute. And I'm like, oh, a mouse. And you, Thaen, you have quite the reaction to them, right? Like,
I'm having a reaction right
just
now, which
talking
is
about
just
them.
bringing it up. Like, I can feel my face going flush. My heart is beating faster. I feel tingliness and like almost a sickness.
And it would be so unhealthy for this relationship if I looked at Thaen and go, why are you reacting to this small thing? Right? This is a big thing for her. So it's a big thing, period. Just because I don't have the reaction, I don't have the experience, doesn't all of a sudden dismiss that this is a big thing for her. And I have things myself that I have really strong feelings around and reactions to. And same thing, right? They're my experiences, my feelings. So first off, we just want to recognize, not to minimize it like that, not to go, oh, it's just a small thing. Recognize this feels like a big thing to them because they're having a reaction. That's first. Second is going back to something we talked about earlier. If they are having a reaction, there's a reason for it. It has to do with what's going on in the mind. So the mind is perceiving, interpreting, experiencing this thing in such a big way, and it feels so intense because of the filters the brain has created. These are things that the brain does to defend itself. And so they can't necessarily help this. There's things that we can always do to work on them and work through these things. But in that moment, they're having a reaction and experiencing it. It has to do something with them, and it feels big for them. So if you can show up for your partner in a way that recognizes, hey, this does feel big for them, instead of saying, oh, why are you reacting to these small things? It can go a lot further.
Yeah, there's a really great workshop in the couples um, worksheet that talks about empathy building. When I work with my clients individually on this, it's usually, can you hold two things at one time? And usually it is the partner's reaction and what's happening for them. Can you get to where they are? Can you find empathy to go, I'm curious, you're having a strong reaction. Help me understand. Right. So it's one that the partner can react strongly, and that exists. And usually under it, when we do some digging, there's usually something that gets triggered or activated in this partner, why they are seeing it as a small thing being reacted to strongly, or an irritation, a frustration, even an eye roll, right? And we go, can you hold two things in existence? That this thing is really, really activating for your partner, and it's okay for you to also feel frustration, upsetness, confusion, right? Irritation. And that doesn't have to mean anything, and that your relationship is okay, and that nothing's being, shifted here too much, right? It's just like holding space for and allowing space for, opening space for, creating that space that we can have these feelings and it's okay. It doesn't have to mean this person is immature or too sensitive. It doesn't have to mean that I'm a bad partner because this builds frustration, or I feel a little bit irritated that my partner's responding this way.
Yeah, and I think there's something that you're speaking to about space that's important as well. That if the reaction is something that's going to cause a reaction in you, right? So they react and now you feel reactive, it's probably best to give it space. It's best to say, hey, you know what, let's just pause here. Let each other take a breath. If you need literal space, take it. If you just need quiet and not talking, or if you need to change topic, whichever, but it might be best just to move away from that topic for now and let it be, so people can calm and feel cool-headed and feel okay to come back to that topic or situation if needed. So that's the other thing to realize, that you don't have to fix this. You don't have to fight with it. If there's a reaction, you can take space, especially if you're having a reaction, and try not to minimize it.
Yeah, recently, just this morning, had a client said, in these moments, I just go journal about my feelings, and they bring it to therapy. And they've said since they've started this kind of relationship mindfulness practice, that it's given them a lot of revelations about themselves and their partner. So I love just taking time to reflect. And we're only setting ourselves up for failure when we are engaging and our nervous system is red. We're activated, we're dysregulated, we're not ready. And so usually it is encouraged for things to go easier, or for you to be responding in alignment to your values and how you want to speak, to be in a green space.
Should I stay or should I leave is the fifth question.
Should I stay or should I go now?
You can go.
Okay.
Teasing. I love you around. You want to take this one first? You want me to?
Yeah, I think this one always, I think it comes up so often, very, very common. And as a therapist, I think it shocks me each time, because I feel like, how come you don't know, right? What is it? What is the barrier for you, or what's the conflict, or what's the hesitation, and what's blocking your clarity, right? So usually we go, maybe by now, my style is to ask curiosity questions, to collect more information from my clients, and for them to really look at it from an investigative way, instead of going like, why do I always make these mistakes? Am I, not deserving of love? Am I going to keep making these problems in relationships? Right. And so we try to take that away by just asking these questions, to look at the information, to look at history, and then to look at reality testing. What's really happening right now for you? And going, okay, how would you like to assess your relationship? Why are you thinking you need to leave or should leave? Why are you thinking you want to stay or need to stay? And some people have a lot of shame if they're like, well, my partner is the primary breadwinner and I have no options. I challenge that. I challenge that really, really hard, because I think it is like something is being avoided here that's deeper than just, I don't have the money to leave. Okay, then maybe if this is true, then if it is meaning for you, then how can you start planning, right? How can you be honest also to your partner? Because it would feel horrible for me if someone was staying with me just because I can afford to caretake for them and provide for them, and they really don't love me. And so I encourage these questions. I usually just start by asking what's going on with them, what's coming up, and oh, how can they be more honest with this conversation? Because sometimes our clients, they do hold back because they're human, and it's scary to be so vulnerable and honest and not feel like this other person is judging you.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you said there, I also mirror in my practice when I work with couples. This one's interesting just from my own life experiences, right? I've been divorced, was with her for over a decade, and now I've been with you for, what are we going on, 8 years?
7, 8.
7 years, moving towards the eighth. Anyways, so I've seen two perspectives, and I get the question why it's hard to answer sometimes, because it was hard for me when last year, 2 years of my marriage with my ex. There was a lot of complications that made it hard to figure out, do I stay or do I go? There's kids involved. There's mindset that I was raised with, that you're supposed to, no matter what, figure out your relationship in a marriage and not end it, that is like the ultimate failure and bad thing to do. You just don't end it, right? Like, I had some of these things ingrained in me. And so I get why it's tough and hard. So I have empathy for the difficulty of trying to answer that question. But similar to Tan, I also start asking questions of a client of, what's causing you to ask this question in the first place? And when we get down to things and someone's really feeling like, I think I want to leave, there's a simple formula I normally encourage people to look at. So first and foremost, have we gotten negative core beliefs out of the way? Because they'll make you feel very reactive to things and might make you question whether you want to stay, when that's actually creating the intensity that you're experiencing. So we want to get those out of the way first. And when those are out of the way, it's going to give you a way clearer picture of what you do or don't want to do. Secondly, I try to challenge all couples to just notice or get to a place where you can see the fact that your future, there is infinite options in front of you, that you can stay, you can go. If you go, there's tons of people out there that would want to be with you if you don't want to be single. There's tons of people that will love you. There's tons of people you will love. There's tons of people you can make an amazing relationship with. This individual you're with is not the only one that can give you a life. There's people you might like more. There's people that might give you a greater life in your way of defining it. There's people that will give you a harder life. It all exists. It's all there. When you can really embody what I'm saying here, it takes away the things like Tan was saying earlier, the fear of, oh, but I don't have the money, or I don't have these things, right? You're staying with someone because of fear, versus seeing the fact that your future is in your hands. You can create that future with or without this person. Again, there's infinite options in front of you. So when you embody this, you really get to look at the relationship. If you get rid of the negative core beliefs and embody this philosophy that I'm offering, you get a look at the person, knowing there's plenty of other people that you could go to and have a great relationship and look at this person and say, out of all those options, I choose you, nobody else. And that is a powerful place to be. It's a place where you're saying, I choose this person, not because I'm afraid, not because of the kids, not because of all these other things, fear of, will anybody love me again? All these things, right? If you just know you're choosing this person with the knowledge that all those things are there, it changes the way you feel about the relationship, and it can give clarity on whether you want to stay or do you want to go. Up to you. All right, so we're going to quickly just read, what does ChatGPT say to these things? And see if it's even close to us or way off, and we're all very different. So basic answer to number 1, ChatGPT says, for the question, is this relationship normal or is something wrong? ChatGPT says, normal relationships still feel safe even when they're hard. Ooh, that's kind of an interesting answer. Conflict, distance, and frustration are normal. Feeling chronically anxious, unseen, or emotionally unsafe is not. A good litmus test, can problems be talked about without punishment? Is repair possible after conflict? Do both people take responsibility sometimes? If the relationship requires you to shrink, suppress, or constantly self-regulate for the other person, something is off, even if it looks normal on the outside.
Pretty good advice. Okay, let's move to question number 2. How do I communicate without turning it into a fight? The basic answer that ChatGPT gives us is you don't fix fights with better words. You fix them with better timing and emotional regulation. Oh, we kind of talked about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If a person is either flooded or defensive or already hurt, logic won't land. Explanation feels like attack. Listening shuts down. Oh, yeah. I think spot on. Seems like we've talked about very similar things. The rules that is given here is regulate first, connect second, and problem solve last. If connection isn't present, communication will always feel like conflict, no matter how calm the words are.
Yeah, it's going to that pause. I think we talked about it on question 3, not question 2, but that's always big, making sure that if there's reactivity involved, it's time to stop or not engage if you're feeling reactive before you go talk to someone, for sure. And that empathy that creates connection, that's big. Number 3, am I asking far too much or not enough? ChatGPT says, if you have to argue yourself into believing your needs are unreasonable, you're probably under asking. Healthy needs don't require begging, don't require proving worth, don't come with guilt attached. A useful check, are you asking for basic emotional presence or for someone to become a different person? Needing consistency, effort, and care isn't too much. Expecting someone to abandon who they are is. Ooh, I like it.
Number 4, why does my partner react so strongly to small things? The basic answer ChatGPT gives us is strong reactions are almost never about the present moment. They're usually about old wounds being touched, feeling powerless, unseen, or disrespected, stress that has nowhere else to go. And the mistake people make here is trying to argue the facts instead of addressing the feeling. You don't calm big reactions by being right. You don't calm them by making the underlying emotion feel understood. You do calm them by making the underlying feelings feel understood or by noticing when it's not yours to manage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So far, I feel like almost all the answers are in line with what we've been saying. So I think we're all matching up. Question 5, should I stay or should I leave? Basic answer, don't ask whether you love them. Ask whether the relationship is changing. Interesting. Love without movement becomes a slow erosion of self. ChatGPT says it looks for 3 things. 1, pattern change, not promises. 2, shared effort, not one person carrying everything. 3, repair after harm, not denial or minimization. If you've communicated clearly, given time, and nothing shifts, the answer usually becomes clear, even if it's painful. I don't know if I go into this one. This is the only time I think ChatGPT and I would debate if ChatGPT could debate me.
I agree with this one. I think sometimes people's definition of change are different. And in a partnership where there's 2 completely different people, this is hard to kind of judge And so, yeah, I think there's more to be said about this recommendation.
Yeah, there's parts of it I definitely agree with, and there's parts of it I think it misses the boat a little, but that's just me. I think it depends on what it's trying to say on ask whether the relationship is changing, but maybe I'm just misunderstanding what it's saying. But I don't know. It doesn't. Again, if ChatGPT could sit here with us, I would probably want to ask more questions and have a little debate in me that would want to debate with ChatGPT. But
I'm on the same boat. Like, even that statement, love without movement becomes a slow erosion of self. That feels illogical to me because there's always movement. It's
Right.
just in what direction.
Exactly. Yeah, this is where I start having a problem with
Mhm.
the answer. But, yeah.
And usually it's like normally there's movement in both in the visual. It might just be movement apart, right? Shared goals no longer being shared. And it's, yeah. So the problem is seeing and defining love without movement. That's just hard.
Yeah. I don't know, because like you said, movement always happens. Change
Mm-hmm.
always happens in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship. So love without movement becomes a slow. Anyways, I would debate this one a little. That's all I would say to it. But
Yeah, let us know if you guys like this game that Jason created with ChatGPT.
yeah, hopefully this was helpful. We appreciate you chiming in. Do check us out on our social media platforms, Facebook, and definitely if you're interested, check out our classes for couples on our website, avidcounseling.org.
We are needing feedback, so please comment. Let us know how you're thinking or feeling, or else we just don't know.
Yes, please. And feel free to ask us questions. We don't mind putting them into the podcast and answering them. Thanks for listening.